Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel for the final week of the Alliance War season. We're going up against Salty here in War number 10, and we're both sort of around the same positioning in Masters, so I think both of us could really use a win or two this week in order to secure Masters 11 through 20, but I think if either of us go on a nice run, there is a potential to get top 10 Masters. So there's a lot on the line in this war, and Salty is a very, very good alliance. They've improved a ton over the past like 5 seasons, to the point where whenever we go up against them, we know they're not going to die a lot. We know they're going to play very, very well, and especially they're really good at just clutching out the end of the map. If they've made a couple of mistakes early on, they tend to just always clean up. So if we don't keep an early lead, it's very difficult against these guys. So mad props to Salty and all of their players. But I get to bring in a cool team because they did ban Spider-Man 2099, so that's the 3rd time this season that he's banned, and we're going to try to use She-Hulk as a little bit of a replacement for him for some of the fights that I've taken before. What you saw there was just a little bit of a refresher of the abilities of this guy. Now I know there's the new UI where you can click on it, but I'm a little old school. I like to go into the fight and click on the champion and read the abilities there. I just wanted to make sure, like, when does the bad stuff start happening when this guy gets a certain amount of mystical charges? And, you know, the short answer, like without having to read it all again, the short answer is like you want to try to keep him below 10 mystical charges. And the mystical charges happen just from like playing the game, unfortunately, because it's like if buffs get expired, if he puts neutralize on you, things that are just naturally going to happen. And then additionally, this node has protection, it has debuff immunity. So, you know, this is the problem with this fight and why it's going to take a very long time, is that, first of all, he has a core energy resistance, and every hit that Dr. Doom has is energy, so there's that. Additionally, you know, we have to keep knocking him down, because when you knock him down, that's how you remove the mystical charges. So I spent a very long time practicing that heavy counter of his special 1. And then, you know, additionally, you're essentially not going to get any buffs in this fight, so that I will not be able to get a Fury off of my special 3 because of the neutralize. So there's more damage out the window. And then on top of that, this has the right back at it nodes, so he's going to be stun immune. He's going to be immune to my incinerates essentially for the entire fight as well. Right there, I just wanted to make sure that the stun stuck, because there are periods of the fight that he can go stun immune, so I didn't want to just like go ham into him if he was accidentally stun immune. Right there, 10 mystical charges meant that he had an unblockable special, so we doom slap him right away. Yeah, so the game plan here, I dueled him a lot so that I was pretty comfortable with just fighting him and not dying, but I was also a little worried about him not dying fast enough because of the just like the protection and the 5-minute timer and everything. So right now the fight is potentially a timeout risk, because we're closing in on 2.5 minutes, and we've not quite gotten him below 50%. So the other thing is we just pushed him to a special 2, and we got a very nice lag spike right there. So I'm glad that we didn't get hit by that, because that would have definitely hurt. Yeah, this fight is just going to take a long time, and that's kind of all there is about it. So, you know, what I will just say, and then I think I'm just going to kind of let the fight play out. Dr. Doom is definitely a good counter here, just because of the way there are so many ways that you can knock him down and remove that protection. You know, you can stun from the shock, you can just throw unblockable specials, you can get to a special 3. There's just a lot of ways, but, you know, I think I could have potentially sped up this fight if I tried to throw more special 2s, because the power control is somewhat important because of Mystic Dispersion, but not so important that like I think I should have been risking that much damage. So right there, we do throw a special 2. None of the hits crits. He's got energy resistance, so it really just didn't do any damage. And then right now I'm pushing his power, and we're just gonna have to throw our special 1. He throws another special 2. I was mostly trying to avoid those, but they're pretty easy to dex as well. So that's the one saving grace about this guy, is that he's relatively easy to dex. And right there, no crits land again, and obviously none of the incinerates are going to land because of the debuff immunity, and so even the special 2s just aren't really doing a lot. But now I'm looking at the timer, and I'm like just look at our health bars and that we still have 90 seconds left. I'm kind of like, all right, probably going to be fine. I got almost all of the heavy counters. There was one that I missed the spacing on earlier, but now it's like we've got 80 seconds to get him down, and he's at 3% health, so we can just hit his block a little bit, throw this special 1. Of course, that's not enough to kill him because special 1 is kind of like a noodle. But yeah, hit his block a little bit. Maybe our block penetration will kill him. And there we go. And oddly enough, we finally land a crit on the last hit of the match, and he goes down. So that was, the way I described that, was the safest 4-minute fight I've ever fought in my life, because I was never worried. Like, I was never like in danger, but it just took a long time, and that's going to be how that one goes. So next up, this was a fun one. I do think Moleman very directly counters this guy, especially on this node because of the heavy hitter, right? So the way that you normally play Mr. Negative is you just block and bait the heavies, because if you parry and stuff, you're going to be giving him light energy, which he can then turn into the delirium debuff on you. But here's the thing, man. Moleman will shrug that delirium right off as long as you are not in frenzy. And additionally, he gets those unstoppables on block. So we have ways to create openings without baiting heavies, so we don't have to worry about heavy hitter. So we basically knocked him down at the beginning to get the Fury. And then I used all of my monster mass charges to create openings to push him to his special 2. And we did plenty of damage without going into frenzy. Bait the special 2. Now we're just going to rinse repeat. We're going to do the same cycle that we just did. It's going to require me landing a heavy, but right there I suffered from the bug where the heavy doesn't charge fast enough, so that was fun. Fortunately, it wasn't enough to kill me. We built a little bit more monster mass there. Now I kind of had to go into frenzy there because I had 6 monster mass, but in a way I was close enough to kill him. So I was kind of assuming that I would go into frenzy by the end of the fight, and then just like one special 2 would get him down, and that's what ended up happening. So yeah, very safe counter there. I think Nick Fury would also work because he can be immune to the delirium straight up with the disorient. But yeah, I would totally send Moleman there again. I think it's very safe. That was a decent model for how to take that fight. All right, so next up, She-Hulk is going to do her best impression of being Spider-Man 2099 against the Sasquatch. Now, we wanted to send just about anybody with Defiance tactic, but the reason I like She-Hulk here is that she has the access to Exhaustion off of the special 1, and Exhaustion will completely bypass his Wrath of Tanarak charges from building up. Which means that we'll have to deal with less Wrath throughout the entire fight. So my goal was advanced power boost and then build up to like just under 2 bars of power, and then start throwing the special ones. Now there, I would like to say that was another input problem. I've seen this against Sasquatch where you think you're dexing, but the computer just blocks. And when you block the special 1, you have the potential to get stunned, and that's what happened. But everything's going fine. We've gotten a few nasty blocked hits, but right now we're at 7 of the passive Furies, which is more than I was intending, because I kind of assumed this would be a difficult fight to maintain Furies, and right there they did fall off, but you know, my goal wasn't to build 1,000,000 Furies. My goal was to get him down in 5 minutes and use the kit of She-Hulk to get him down, if that makes sense. So we got a nice intercept there. If it was possible, it might have been nice to push him to the special 2, because the special 2 is a little bit easier to counter at the very end. But he's pretty freely throwing those heavies, so we're getting lots of openings. Again, we missed the dex there, so yeah, large versus extra large is always a little scary in this game, and we're just dealing with it, but fortunately it hasn't punished us yet. So now I'm looking at a couple things here. He goes into Wrath. If you're going to punish those heavy attacks from Wrath, you need to practice it. There's a very, very small window. You have to kind of watch for the unstoppable buff or passive to end, and then right as it's ending, you dash in. So we got through Wrath. Wrath is over. That's hopefully the only time that we have to deal with Wrath in this fight. Window of Opportunity stun was down, so I parried him. And then we just threw one special 2, and they both crit, which was quite lucky, and that got him down. If that didn't get him down, I did have power back boosts on. And additionally, we had the Petrify off of that, which would have stopped his heal. So yeah, She-Hulk, that works pretty well. Now this next one, I actually got a little grief from. I mean, it was friendly grief, but they were like, "Dude, why are you going to use She-Hulk against Domino?" And I don't blame them, because She-Hulk has a small chance to gain a fury, like a passive fury, every time she hits somebody. So obviously, a lot of the time, that's going to crit fail, right? But here's the thing, man. Defiance, right? We know that means you don't proc buffs, but watch this. You dex, you get energy resistance, right? So look how little those crit fails are doing. There's a few things happening here, right? The energy resistance is helping us. We have the regen boost on. I went for that instead of invuln. That was a calculated risk, but one that I thought was worth it. And then additionally, you may not know this, but with Domino, when you get consecutive triggers of critical failure for the same move, it actually reduces the amount of critical failure. So when we don't proc a fury like 10 times in a row like this, it actually reduces the crit fail, so that it's really not going to do that much. Like look how little it's done so far, right? And this is a SIG 100 Domino, which is a substantial amount of energy damage that you could get on her. Now additionally, our special 2s are hitting pretty hard. We got a little lucky again with the crits, so these power back boosts are doing their job. And the most important thing here is that since we're Defiance, we are completely not worried about Spite. And then additionally, you throw a special 2, it puts a Petrify on, which means you don't have to worry about Rise to Power. So we are countering the 2 most annoying things about the node. And then at that point, it's just She-Hulk versus Domino in Battlegrounds. Like it's a Battlegrounds-sized matchup of one champion against another with basically no nodes, and we have energy resistance on top of it. So to me, that seemed winnable from the start, just because of Defiance, because I'm pretty comfortable fighting Domino, and everything worked out great. So I'm very happy about that. In fact, I think it went smoother than some of the Spider-Man 2099 versions of Domino this season. So just something to remember. And then finally, Zoom completely controls this fight, even though something kind of funny is going to happen here. So yeah, kinetic transference and aspect of evolution is actually usually something that helps Doom, because when you give them more power, you can steal more power essentially. Right there, he's got 2 bars. I'm trying to get to my special 3, and I feel like he threw that a little more like quickly than I thought he would. Now I got to be pretty careful about pushing him to an L3, and he's just throwing these into my block, man. I was holding block, and he's throwing special 2s back to back to back into my block, but that gave me enough power to get to my special 3, and we're just going to throw the special 3. Because our specials are unblockable, the auto block isn't going to be a problem. Additionally, we can get rid of his armor through nullification. So right there, it's done. I'm not using power back boost, so we do a normal Doom cycle. We don't do the shortened cycle. And my goal is to get to another special 3 If I can get it with 2 Furies, that's even better, but it's looking like the Fury's going to fall off. I should have just thrown that special 3, but it's okay, because this is going to nearly kill him, and then we're going to get another Fury, and we should be able to finish up the fight. So aside from that funny start where he was just spamming special 2s into my block while I was holding block, this is a really good placement for Dr. Doom. I think it could have been a slightly dangerous Corvus charge if we wanted to do that, but Corvus would have also worked. Like obviously Hercules, Cosmic Ghost Rider, or a more conventional power control champ I think would have worked fine as well. And that's going to be the end of this war. So Spider-Man 2099 banned usually means I'm taking fewer fights. Only took 5 in this war, but first time using She-Hulk, fun Moleman fight, a couple fun Doom fights, and first time that I got to fight Rintrah. So to me, that was a pretty fun war. We unfortunately lost because the wheels came off the wagon at the end of the war for us. We just had a pile of deaths at the end. Not any one person's problem or fault for sure. Just one of those things where things just started escalating. And Salty, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, is definitely a force to be reckoned with. And they finished so strong. Like I think they had 7 deaths when I went to bed, and they finished with 8 or something like that. So they really, really tightened up and ended up winning the war, and good for them. So congrats to Salty, and we've got 2 more chances to pull out at least 1 more win. And if we do that, I think we'll be in pretty good shape this season. So thanks for coming along for the ride. Hope you enjoyed this video and maybe learned a thing or two, and I'll catch you in the next one.